Hey guys, welcome to Sophie Unfiltered. I'm Sophie McGuinness. This is my new podcast show. I'm a model, content creator, and officially podcaster from Dublin, Ireland. So this podcast has been on the cards for many, many years. I've always been a talker. I've always been an oversharer, and my private story has always been a big part of my life where I've just tell my tales of every day, my rants, my cries, my trauma. I'm an open book and I have a very open aura as well. And I feel like I've always been that person that people come to for advice and wisdom, you could say. And everybody's always said to me for years, Sophie, you need to put this energy into something else. You need to put it into a podcast. And finally, I'm doing it. My Uncle David was the first person that said it to me years ago. And I was like, hardly, I don't know. But he was like, you need to use your voice. You have a voice that nobody else has. You have a story that nobody else has, and that is going to sell. And I've always had a dream of writing my own book on my life or selling my story to Netflix, because I'm like, I've never seen anything that comes close to my life. Like any amount of trauma, family issues, friendship things, like nothing compares to my life that I've watched. So I'm like, I need to get my story out there. And also because I grew up very, very lonely, and in my mind I always felt like nobody could relate to me or the cards that I've been dealt with. I have a very unconventional family, and yeah, I feel like I want to share my word, and if I could help one person with my podcast that's listening that feels like they can't relate to anyone because they have an unconventional family, then that's my goal. And yeah, I feel like I wish when I was younger that I had someone like me that was as raw and unfiltered to listen to with sharing their life. I'm very transparent, and I want this podcast to be a very transparent place. There's going to be a lot of doomy, gloomy stuff, nitty gritty stuff that I'm going to discuss in this, topics that a lot of people would not discuss with anybody. It would usually stay behind closed doors, but there's a lot of stuff I really want to spread awareness on, and not just the doomy, gloomy stuff. I want this to be a bantery space. I want it to be a positive space. I want it to be funny space. I'm going to be solving your dilemmas. I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff. I want to have a lot of laughter on this. And I want it to be very contrasting, like my life is. It contrasts from darkness into light, like a switch. And yeah, I kind of want this podcast to represent that and who I am. And anybody who knows me knows I'm an absolute nut job. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be talking for Ireland on this, and I'm going to have yous all moved, hopefully, and learning from this and opening your eyes to topics that I really care about, and society, a lot of parts of society that people don't see or even think about or kind of snub their nose up to. I really want to awaken yous on. You take a drink. Okay. So let's start with me and who I am. I am 23 years old. I live in North Dublin. I was raised by my nanny. I'm going to start with my whole storyline, because I feel like even when I meet people, they ask me like who I, when you meet someone, they're like, oh, I'm married to my partner and his family's great and my family's great and we're on baby number 3 and da-da-da. And then they ask me about my life. And I'm like, oh, where do I start? Because are they going to think I'm waffling if I tell my storyline? And there's no way I can tell my life without it seeming dark to people. So I feel like my coping mechanism is definitely laughing. So that's what I'm going to be doing a lot through this. So if you think I'm an absolute psychopath as I'm telling stories, like, that's just how I cope, to be honest. I feel like laughter is medicine. And honestly, if I didn't have the family that I've had around me, and if I didn't have the friends that I had around me, I wouldn't have gotten to this point in my life. You just get to a point in life where life throws so much shit at you that you literally can't take it serious anymore. Like, I literally don't take anything serious. I don't take myself serious. You can't take life serious because we're literally only here for a short time. So that's me. I'm very, very unserious. So my background, I was raised by my nanny and granddad. I was born on the 23rd of March in the Rotunda by my mother, Nikki, who I won't be referencing to on this podcast as mom, mother. I'll be referencing to her as Nikki because my nanny raised me. She might as well have pushed me out. My mom had me at 17, handed me over to my lovely, lovely nanny Iris. If any of you follow me from Instagram or TikTok, you would know my nanny. A lot of people are obsessed with her. She might as well make her own bleeding page at this point and start doing promo because even the brands that I work with love my nanny. They think she's the most cutest person ever. She's an absolute diva. This is where I get my attitude from. But she's a special nanny because I have never, ever, ever met someone who was raised by their grandmother from the moment they were brought into this world. Like, and I always say, like, people get given up for adoption because their parents couldn't do it. But how often do you get taken in by a family member that's willing to take you in? And never mind a family member, your own grandmother. Like, it's crazy. And I remember my nanny even told me, like, when she was pushing me in my pram, she'd get nothing but stares. And even when I remember she told me she was talking to a neighbour, Maisie, and she was really upset when she found out that Nikki was pregnant. And a lady said to her, it was a huge mistake, da-da-da. And this lady, Maisie, said to her, she didn't even know that Nikki was having a boy or a girl yet. And she said to my nanny, that girl is going to be your guardian angel. And that's what my nanny still always says to this day. And I feel like I was brought into the world to give my nanny and Paul a second chance of, I'm going to get emotional now. I feel like I was brought into the world to give my nanny and Paul a second chance to raise a child together themselves. So I'll go more into their backstory. But yeah, this episode is mainly going to be focused on getting to know me, getting to know my story and my purpose and what's made me do this podcast. So please bear with me if I get a bit emotional or jumbled up because my brain is like, trying not to curse, it's like a sponge and I've so much that I'm trying to get out right now. But yeah, I can get more into other episodes. I'm just like trying not to focus on being too structured with what I'm saying. So if I'm blurting things out and not going back to it, please bear with me because I tend to do that a lot. In conversations with the girls, we'll jump from topic to topic to topic. So I'm trying not to do that here. I actually have loads of stuff written in my notes here and I'm trying not to be too structured and focus on that. But yeah, so my nanny took me home from the hospital and Nikki basically handed me over to her and was like, I can't do this. Didn't want me from day one. So that's where I'm kind of like, I don't have any relationship with Nikki. She is a drug addict. And that's something that I'm very open with. She is very, very, very bad, rock bottom drug addict. She definitely puts me and my family through hell. We've had a nightmare with her for 23 years of my life. Like the things that I've seen growing up, no child should ever see. My innocence definitely wasn't protected against her. But all I can say is that it made me the person I am today. I wouldn't be who I am without my story and things that I've witnessed and the trauma that I've been through. My nail literally caught my hair. But yeah, so my nanny and Paul raised me and they took me home. I was born on 23rd of March and my nanny also has a set of twins called David and Louise. So when I was brought home, they were 16 and there's my uncle Anto as well. Anto, I'm sorry, I couldn't tell you what age you were when I was brought home, maybe 18, 19. Nikki didn't come back with me. She went off to do whatever mischief she was up to in her teens. So I was literally raised as David's little sister, David and Louise's little sister and Anto's. So I was just like a new little baby that came into the family when they were in their mid-teens. And I was actually born on David and Louise's birthday, 23rd of March, which is crazy. Louise. I can't believe this. I'm actually like getting I've never shared this much of my life before. It's absolutely crazy. But I feel like you need to know this going into this podcast because like I might as well get it all out. Yeah, so I was raised with David and Louise. Me and David, Anto moved out when I was pretty young. My nanny and Paul did an amazing job at raising me. Paul is my step granddad. That's why I reference to him as Paul. If some of you are wondering why, he never wanted my nanny's children to call him dad. So when then I was brought home, I was trying to call my nanny mom, call Paul dad, and they were like, no. My nanny was like, she's not going to allow me to call her mom. I just went to Paul by Paul. My nanny, her first marriage was to Dick. His name was Richard. Dick for short. I don't know why that's an Irish thing, is it, that you called Richard's Dick? It's not going to have to be blurted out, I don't know. So she had an amazing marriage with Dick, and he went in for a surgery, and she had the 4 kids. They were very, very, very young. And that's where I feel like their trauma started. That's where I feel like the generational trauma definitely started in the family. Well, actually, I feel like I've kind of gone down the path now and rooted through the McGuinness family. And I'm like, yeah, there's some things that were off there that there was no diagnosis for anything years ago either. But now we're starting to clock different traits from different family members and different stories from over the years, and noticing like a lot of mental illness does run in the family. But Dick went in for a keyhole surgery that ended up, he got an infection and he passed away, and my nanny was left with 4 kids raised by herself as a widow. She lived out in Blanchardstown at the time, and she lived in Mulhuddart, so it was a big, Mulhuddart was like only built at the time, and it was all happy families, wives, everything, just like living their best life in their happy homes. And my nanny was like, this is not the place for a widow, so she moved back to North Dublin. I'm not going to obviously share where we live now, but she moved back over to where she was originally from and bought her dream house that she had her eyes on years prior. Met Paul. He actually was just out of a divorce himself, and they actually did know each other from the area growing up. They ended up, my granddad, I call him granddad, he was actually my great-great-granddad, but because of the whole family dynamic, like, nobody has their actual name that they're meant to have, like. So my granddad Vinny, we call him the Italian stallion, he actually set up my nanny with Paul in the pub, and that was it from there. And then they got married, and then I came along. So that's where I'm coming from when I said they got like a second chance to raise a child of their own. I feel like that was me. Yeah. So yeah, I was raised with my nanny's children. Me and David grew a very, very, very close bond. He was like my best friend, brother, mentor, life coach, personal trainer, personal chauffeur, everything that you could need in a person. He was also my de-stressor and temper controller within the house and everything that would go on. So even when David moved out of the house, he had Preston. So I nearly forgot about Preston there. David had Preston. They lived with us for a few years when he had Preston. And when David eventually moved out, it was like, my nanny always says, he was the bird that never left the nest. It was like the minute he moved out of the house, he was in the house more than ever. David was the type that he'd drop down 7 days a week to see his mammy because he was such a mammy's boy, and he just loved his family so much. He loved spending time with us, and me and him were very close. We done everything together. We ate together. We trained together. We listened to music together. We vibed out together. We smoked together. We done everything together. And yeah, I lost my best friend on the 11th of April. He committed suicide, and that definitely took a big toll on the family. I have had this podcast on the cards for years now, and David was the first person that actually said it to me that I need to get my voice out there. I may have already said this, but he had a plan to come on here and kind of turn it a bit into like a Joe Rogan vibe. And he wanted to come on, and he was mad into psychedelics. He was a super hippie. DMT, ayahuasca, everything, you name it. He done ceremony himself. some of you may know him as Cheesy, Ray Sankin, DMT Dave, but he unfortunately took his life, and suicide is definitely a topic that I want to touch lots on this podcast, because I know so many people have been affected by it, more than I could have even imagined, especially as I've been out and talking to people, and the amount of people that have told me it's affected their family is absolutely crazy, and I feel like it's something that needs to be talked about way more. Mental health, but the dark side of it, and I feel like drug abuse needs to be taught. There needs to be a light shone on drug abuse really, really hard, especially for Ireland, especially for Dublin, especially for the culture here, the drug culture. That's something I really massively want to focus on, because how drugs have affected my family is like not normal. And how it's affected so many people's families, so many people that I know, so many people I've run into. It's actually mind-blowing. Like, I'm sure you know yourself, like anybody that's watching this from Dublin, like you're walking around the city and it's like The Walking Dead now. But like I always say, it stems from young. Like, I feel like this topic with Irish people is gonna get a lot of, I don't know, different opinions, but it starts from when you're younger, and everybody loves the rip, everybody loves the sesh, and that's where I seen it start with David and his friends, and like that's where it started with Nikki. So she thought when she was 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, you're taking a bump off someone on a night out. I am just having fun, like we all do. Like we all, so like drugs are so normal. It's like nowadays, like if you aren't taking something, it's like, what? You're a shite buzz. Like, what? You feel actually awkward refusing drugs on a night out. And like I grew up in this culture for years until I finally decided to step away from it. That was my norm. That was my friend group's norm. Especially growing up predominantly white and going to a predominantly white school. I was definitely in that world very like hardcore. Like even me and David could relate so much about being on the rip, and he loved Ibiza. Like, and that's what I mean. It's that same culture of groups from Dublin that just live for Ibiza, and that's all that they live for is Ibiza and live for the rip. And unfortunately, that is the truth. And I could see myself going down into that cycle. And I don't know what pulled me out of it. I think it was looking at my family members that I was like, you blink and it's going to be you in 20 years. Of course you don't think it's going to be you when you're up in someone's nanny's kitchen in the afternoon on a Sunday or a Monday. Like, of course you think it's never going to progress to that point, but that's how it does progress to that point. Nothing just goes full swing in. Like it has to go up what do you say? Up a flight of stairs. has to progress. Yeah. So I'm drinking wine here to ease the nerves. So yeah, David, I kind of watched that with him. He loved the rip, lived for it, and then he kind of had like an epiphany midway through life where he was like, he was like, F this, F society, I'm over this system, da 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 da. And he was like, I am going to go to Peru for a year and live in a leaf and do ayahuasca. So he went there, done that, fully became a whole different person. Now, like I said, me and David were so close. We could tell each other anything. Like he told me everything. Like the conversations we'd have, other people would be like, what the fuck is that? Like, who talks to their family members? Like, who tells their family members about their personal life, everything? Like, you know, the way you wouldn't dream of telling your family members some things. There was no sugarcoating anything with David. I could tell him anything and everything. And to be honest, it is the same with my nanny. Nothing has ever been under the rug in my household, which I think is a really nice character trait that we all have. hence why I've called my podcast Sophie Unfiltered. But as I was saying, David came back from Peru and had fully transitioned into this new person, broke up with his partner, got rid of all his materialism bits that he had, anything with labels, sold his cars, wanted to live this new Zen life where he's not a sheep and not absorbed by materialism. Now, this was when I was about 14, 15. I'd say I was probably like maybe 12 when David went to Peru. But like when I was mid-teen, David was trying to get me to start my psychedelics journey, which I know a lot of people are going to think is very messed up because your mind isn't even fully developed when you're that age. But he was training to be a shaman, and he was so focused on showing psychedelics to the world and trying to get all of his family woke and everything. Whereas at the same time, my hair keeps getting caught in my nail. I actually can't believe this. So at the same time, I feel like I was always like, I don't feel like you need psychedelics to reach this level of consciousness. Like, and that was kind of always my fight with him. And he was like, you need to get, you're way ahead of your years. You need to get more ahead now. Now's the time when you're young. I wish I had this when I was your age. And I was just like, David, stop bleeding tormenting me. If I want to do it, I'll do it. I'll come to you when I'm ready to do it. And thank God I never did it, because I genuinely feel like psychedelics had a huge role to play in the lead up to his suicide. I feel like psychedelics open up. I can't believe this podcast has already turned into like a Joe Rogan on episode 1. Like, what is going on? I feel like psychedelics open up you to a whole spiritual realm, and I feel like us humans shouldn't try to tap into that or play with where we shouldn't be. It's like the same thing as getting a Ouija board. That's the way I look at it now. After David's passing, I feel like you're opening yourself up to the spiritual world. You're opening yourself up for demons to attach themselves to you. And I feel like psychedelics opened up a lot of trauma for David and he became infatuated with searching for answers. And that's what his life was. And he actually done DMT a couple of 100 times, which is wild. He's done ayahuasca many, many, many times. I'm not exactly sure the number, but I know I have confirmation that he done DMT a couple of 100 times, which I don't even think you should do. Like that was him addicted to psychedelics. And he was obsessed with Paul Chek, Joe Rogan, anybody. He all these people that do psychedelics and talk about them, where he was their follower. Like, he loved them so much. He genuinely seen himself being at that level of educating people on psychedelics, and that's why he wanted to come on here. And I was going to give him the space to come on here every once in a while and spread the word that he wanted to. But now I'm like using this to try and steer people away from them. Not steer them away from them, but just to give you insight on them and to be careful with playing around with drugs, guys. At the end of the day, they are drugs. Like, psychedelic, I think, is just a nice name for it, isn't it? Like, but yeah, I feel like the psychedelics opened up a whole portal for him, and it just made the trauma too heavy for him. And I feel like they make you woke, but I feel like I was as woke as David, and from his teachings, obviously, and from all the wisdom that he poured into me and the knowledge. But I was like, I'm this woke from being taught by you and from my own experience at life. So, and we're on the same level and we have the same conversations. So what difference did the ayahuasca do for you? I haven't taken it. So you said I wouldn't be able to get at the point of wokeness, but I'm on the same level of woke as you. So I could never really understand that. But yeah, David took his life. That really, really made me go so deep into a search of that whole world that he was in, that whole community that he was in. I've really read up on it over the past few months, and I think it can be a very dangerous game to play with. Like, for instance, when David passed, We took everything from his apartment. I was like, I'm not letting a thing go. I actually like have everything hoarded in the sitting room at home. It's actually like his house inside of ours. And he had like leaves from ceremony that he was like, there was videos on his Instagram of him shrugging these leaves over people and doing whatever chants they're doing. And I was like, this is witchcraft. No, this is actually witchcraft. This is witchcraft. It's just modernized. It's just whitewashed. People try to say, like, that is, you are a witch. You are, what are you opening? What are you serenading to? What are you opening up to? So there was one day, I think it was like during the summer, that I was just like, F this. I'm not having this. You don't know what is attached to these things that he's used for ceremony. So I actually threw them out. And then my friend Maria, she's actually here in the room with us. I think you said, like, what if you're after getting a spell on you for throwing it out? Did you say that? Yeah. So I was like,
they're sitting in the box, and then you just put them in the bin. Like, they would probably.
I just put them in the bin. If I burnt them, God knows what's gonna come from that. Jesus, but yeah, it's actually funny now. I hope David is watching this himself, and he's like, yeah, I effed up, like, because how he tried to push psychedelics on me, and then I just seen his mind be taken. Like, it was like during COVID, he loved COVID. David loved COVID because it was like, I feel like this episode is, sorry, going off topic, but I feel like this episode would be a nice episode for like David's friends and stuff to watch. Just like a nice episode. Just like, yeah, you know what? I actually had so much in my notes for this episode that I planned, and I was like, guys, we done a shot before this, and I was literally like shaking on the thing, like trying to read my notes, and I was like trying to look at the camera at the same time and read my notes, and I was just like, Maria was like, just go with the flow and just see where it takes you and stop thinking too much about it has to be like this. This episode is actually just basically about David, like, and I'm going to be talking about him a lot through this podcast. I'm referencing to him a lot, but this episode I actually like how we're just like focusing on him. I don't know if I've said it yet, but today is actually his anniversary. So he committed suicide on the 11th of April, and they turned off the life support on the 18th. So today is the 18th of December 2024, and this is my first episode, and I just think that is really, really, really wild. Yeah, it's just crazy. But going back to what I was saying was, it was during COVID, and you know the way everything kind of settled down and it was really quiet and we had so much downtime. That was like David's, like, he was like thriving during lockdown. I feel like I kind of thrived during lockdown, and that was when I came out of my identity crisis as well. I feel like lockdown was really bad for a lot of people's mental health, but I feel like it really helped form a lot of people. Like, I definitely became who I was during lockdown. Like, if I wouldn't be here on the sofa, nobody would be interested in listening to me if COVID didn't happen. That's actually mad. Like, that is mad. But I feel like David thrived during lockdown, and we were out training together. He was just like, the roads were like, we had so many rules. None of them applied to him. He was out at the beach. He was like one of them people getting threatened at the beach to be arrested if you don't go off the beach. Like, Portmarnock Beach was his absolute home. He loved it so much. He was down there. He'd hold all meditation and all the hippie stuff that he was up to. Was on that beach, and he trained on it, swam, done all sorts on it. He had his own sauna on it at one point that he made like a tent, and people would come in after their swim. I was like, what on earth? He was so creative. It was unbelievable. He taught me everything I know, to be honest, about creativity. And just like believing in myself and just never thinking that any dream is too big, like, or unrealistic. And if anybody tells you it is, tell them to shut up and mind their own. Enjoy your 9 to 5 for the rest of your life. Do you know that way? And he got that mentality in my head that I was just like, I don't like the system. I don't want to work for someone for the rest of my life. I need to be my own boss. And it was him that got that in my head, because I was miserable in every job that I've ever had. And I didn't know what I wanted to do in school. I didn't really do well in the Leaving Cert. I knew I wasn't going to do well in the Leaving Cert from first year. I had no interest in school. I never brought a book home in my life. I'd bring a book home 2 days before any exam started, and I'd pretend to look through it. My nanny knew the same. But I always was interested in modelling, so I knew that I wanted to do that, but I was still at the same time like, oh my God, Jesus, like, I can't put all my eggs into modelling. But David kind of pushed me to get creative. And I think COVID then, I just kind of fell into social media. And that was my breakthrough then. And then obviously more modelling opportunities came from that. Hey guys, I'm back. I had to do a little refreshment there. Refresh myself up. Pop to the loo, get a cup of tea. And just fix up my lips. So I left off there talking about David and COVID. I felt like I was kind of rambling on a bit. But now we have my bestie Maria, who actually came here for moral support, who is now
tied into this.
So Maria, like, has been sitting on the sideline through this, talking to me and telling me what I should be saying and should not be saying and how to make it more spicy and that. So the guys were just like, she might as well just bleed and hop on and call it Maria Unfiltered at this point.
I'm just in the corner like a little creep.
So we gave her a mic. She didn't want to come on the sofa because she doesn't feel mentally prepared enough. So Maria is here. And me and Maria are, like, let me actually give you a little bit of us, right? Everybody in their life needs a Maria. This is a thing that all of my other friends always reference to is even Maria. They're like, oh, that's like her Maria, or that. But like, Maria is like a phrase now, like having a Maria in your life. Like, and Maria is like what do you say? Is epiphany like, or Maria is like the be all and end all of what a friendship should be and what.
Oh, Jesus, now my head is going all the way.
Yeah, that's Maria. Let's talk about Maria, right? So me and Maria actually live at the back of each other's houses.
But we still haven't, so we can actually, your garden, so if you're looking out from my garden, Sophie's house is literally 2 or 3 gardens over. So we've always said since we've been younger, one day we're going to actually hop the walls and go into each other's gardens. Still have never done it, actually.
Still have never done it. We say it all the time. We say to everyone we meet, oh, we live at the back of each other's house.
Glued to the hip.
See how I'm even more comfortable now talking that Maria's on the mic with me? What the?
But I'm shitting my pants.
Yeah, Maria's shitting it now. Yeah, so me and Maria are best friends since we started junior infants together. We literally learned how to read and write together.
And my mum, when my mum was pregnant with me, she actually had met Nikki when Nikki was pregnant with Sophie. So that's so bizarre because they actually would walk by each other and she would see Nikki and Sophie's in Nikki's belly and I'm in my mum's belly.
How bizarre. How bizarre. It's bizarre. So me and Maria were bestos all through school, all through primary school, all through secondary school, and then we had a little blip.
Yeah, just
when we were just a little blip. Not we don't blame ourselves for this. It was actually a third party that caused this blip.
Fully.
And we weren't friends for about a year in school, walking around with our heads down when we were passing each other. It was actually the weirdest thing ever. And my nanny kept saying to me, "You're gonna get back, mates. I know it. You and Maria are gonna be friends." And I was like, "Nanny, it's over. We're done. Never. She chose her side. Da 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 da. It's never happening." And I don't even know how. What was it? The Debs. How did we get back talking?
How we got back friends? Because so basically, just to briefly touch on it, when you're in school and you have all your school friends around and it's a big group of girls, you're young, you're naive, you don't really understand like bad behaviors in people and how some people are actually the way that they are how would you even put into words?
Gaslighters, patronizing, control.
Yeah. Very bad, but you don't pick up on these things because you're so young. Your friends, da da da.
But I'm so grateful.
You don't realize that you actually need to be careful of who your friends are. So we were all in a group of friends with one particular person, and this person was, let's just say, she was an introduction on how someone can really control you, manipulate, mass manipulator. And
we were all puppets on puppets on strings.
And we all had to be
I actually never thought I'd be saying this is actually wild that we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know how that just happened. That was me.
Maria, this is mad.
Yeah,
this is something that we just like keep amongst our group, don't we?
But I think when you're so young,
sure, this is what a podcast is.
Yeah, that's what
we're getting it out and dirty and raw and unfiltered, and that's why it's called Sophie Unfiltered. Because we're real.
But you need to realize, like, us now as friends, you realize who you want to be friends with and why. That people might have certain traits on them that are really, you can see it and you're like, that's psychotic. That's what's going on here. But when you're so young, you're so naive to these things and you don't pick up on these things at all. But I think it's only become when we were coming out of school that we started to realize what is going on here. So this one person, let's say...
Yeah, that was kind of when you woke up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because when you're in school, all you know is school. All you know is these people.
Yeah. And we were all in this person's bubble. They left the bubble. I was still in the bubble. And I actually remember running around to
I got the
your
courage
house.
to leave the bubble.
Yeah, you left it before me. I got stuck in it for another, year?
Yeah.
And then, what was I going to say? Yeah, I was still in the bubble. And then I remember coming around to your house and I was like, Sophie, I was crying. I was bawling my eyes out. And I was like, Sophie, I love you so much. I don't want to stop being friends with you. Like, you're my best friend. And then I went around to this person's house and then it was...
And it was like it all left her mind.
Party. Yeah.
She was actually telling me how much she did not want to lose this friendship and we can't let this come between us. And then she actually went to that girl's for a sleepover after this and cut me off right after. Can you imagine the power that she had?
And also keep in mind, this person started, I came to this person's house and there was other people there and she started off this whole conversation of was like, look, this is not a hate Sophie party. But
I'm going to give you 40 reasons on why to hate her.
And just completely mass manipulates. Anyway, that's a whole nother...
Yeah.
That's so wild how we just even mentioned that. But
Me and Maria are also very trauma bonded guys. We started school with our best friend, Kira. Kira Haw, Miss Kira fucking Haw. I can't believe...
what I'd do to hear her laugh again.
I'm saying her name on this podcast as well. It's like a bleeding memorial on this. Yes, everybody I've loved has died. And that's the reality of like what? Like everyone just keeps dying. Like, so we started school with Kira and Kira would be here. Guys, let me tell you as well. Actually, before I go into this, Kira was the OG MUA content creator. She was creating content before any of us.
Perfect.
Yes. But remember her passion for creating content and doing looks? Like, can you imagine where she'd be at today? Can you imagine where she'd be at?
Remember though, even up in
she'd be already getting flown out to LA with Kylie Cosmetics and shit. Like, guys, it shouldn't be me doing this. It should be Kira in this position right now. Honestly.
But even when she was so sick in the hospital, there was pictures I remember seeing.
She was still doing her makeup.
Still doing makeup.
Yeah. So me and Maria are very trauma bonded. We shared the same bestie, and it was me, you, and Kira actually the OGs. The three of us.
Well, I remember. Yeah, it was, and then I remember we also played camogie together, and then I quit camogie. But then she was just always a friend, wasn't she? And she was friends with everyone. Yeah. You know when it's like you say that, like, oh, she was so great and so lovely.
Yeah, but we were so jealous though when she had other friends when we were younger though. Do you remember? Yeah. We were so jealous when we had, because we had acquaintances, but we didn't have other friend groups that we'd actually socialise with. So we'd be so bitter when Kara would be meeting her other friends. Even when she was sick, to be honest, with the cancer, like, not gonna lie, I still was jealous that other people were getting her time. I just wanted to lock her in a box and just have her to myself until, like, we didn't know she was gonna die though, as well. We knew she was sick, but
she was amazing. She was absolutely amazing. I think she was one of the first people that I looked at and like, wow, like the strength that she had. She basically got, so what happened was she had, at the beginning, she thought it was a cyst on her ovaries. And then she got it checked. And I actually don't think though, I think it was just her and her mom that got it sent off for biopsy. I actually don't.
The doctors kept telling her for ages that it was in her head and that it was just her period pains, and
I don't know. We might need to fact check this.
Obviously, because she was so young.
But like her mum and her then went to go get this cyst sent off to get biopsied. Came back. This was around Halloween time. Came back. Ended up being cancer. Now, in between that time though, before there was a night out that she went down. I wasn't. She was
vomiting black. I remember you telling me this.
Yeah, it was like
it was outside, right?
They said she was getting sick of.
Yeah,
but everyone just thought she was just a lightweight after having.
That was her organs obviously being destroyed with.
And then within the span of when that happened, so that was her only.
Took 8 months. From that October to the May.
Was it 8?
8 months. 8.
8.
It was.
Why did I think
Kira found out in the October. She died in the 11th of May. That was 8 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Guys, let me also add. Sorry, I know we started on David, and I'm going to go back to David, but Kira died on the 11th of May. David committed suicide on the 11th of April. That's just a fact I just wanted to throw out there. And another one. I found out who my dad was on the 11th of October.
Yeah.
11 that's weird, isn't it? It's not a good day. My dog, one of my dogs, Bijan's that I loved, Mishka. Shout out to Bioga Mishka. Love you forever in my heart. Mishka's birthday was the 11th of May.
Can I also say how obsessed she was with these dogs that she actually cut off a piece of hair off Björg and off Mishka and stuck it on an A4
Absolutely
piece
did.
of paper with sellotape.
Absolutely did.
Stuck it to her
There's
bedroom.
no love like it. There's no love like it, and you can't tell me otherwise.
And now their ashes are currently on the
fireplace.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they were actually, who was it? Was it Björg that was more of the model?
Two of them were models.
Well, they had a photo shoot anyway down in...
Models like their mommy.
Yeah. And their picture was down on display in the place that you went to get them for photos.
Yeah, they actually were. They were actually a man actually used them for models in his window on a clock.
But it was there for a solid 10 years, I think. The picture of them.
Yeah. So...
Anyway, what was it?
Where were we?
Kira.
Yeah, Kira basically died, and just nobody gave it a rat's that our friend died, and life just had to go on normal. Like, it was literally like Kira died, and the week prior we were back in school, and they were like, right, open your books or you're all going to be failures. We have the leaving cert coming up. Da da da. It was just like nothing happened. They put up some scaldy photo of her in a hallway, and
the school didn't help.
They called it a day, and I don't care. I don't care if any of you are watching this from the school, because the only person that gave a shit was Mr. Dignan.
Yeah.
And that was the only person. But yeah.
We always say though, we just think the pain that we had felt from her passing away, God knows what her family felt.
I was literally just saying that to you in the car, wasn't I? And then, right, so
her mom.
I was, when Kira passed.
Dad or stepdad, God knows how they all felt.
Yeah. When Kira passed, we were all like so consumed with our own emotions. And then we were like, oh my God, if we're grieving like this, we didn't even know this pain existed. What is her family going through? I couldn't have imagined a pain being worse, but I knew in my mind, like, we're going to lose our own family members. Like, life is just, and death is inevitable. Like, I know obviously David cut his life short, but death is unfortunately, like, as morbid as it sounds, it's the realest thing. Death is the only thing that is promised in this life. And that's what my nanny always says. Death is the only thing that's promised. You've one life, live your life, because you're not making it out alive. None of us are making it out alive. And I feel like Kira definitely pushed us to want to live our lives.
Oh, yeah.
So much.
And I think she gave us a lot of strength from how she reacted. Like, she always had a smile on her face. There'd be times where we're all at a friend's house and we would look over and see she'd fallen asleep. And she would never complain about being in pain or being sore. Yeah, she always whenever she was with us, she wanted to... She didn't want us to
see
her at all in any...
She didn't want us to treat her like a victim.
Yeah. And I think, I remember, so like we were saying, God knows how our family feels. Remember I said to you a couple of weeks back, I seen a thing online and it was talking about how there's a name for example, a widow, but there's no name for a mother losing her child. Like, how you can't even put that into words. Yeah. And every time I think of Kira, I just think of her family, because my heart really goes out to them. They're just, phenomenal. Just no words. Honestly, no words.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, like, looking at my nanny now, after her losing David, like, my nanny has suffered so much. My nanny lost her mom to cancer when my nanny was 16. My nanny looked after her for 2 years while she was sick. My nanny had 5 younger siblings that she had to look after. She actually had, when my nanny gave birth to Helena, my nanny's sister, what the hell? When my nanny's ma gave birth to Helena, her last child, she actually got diagnosed right after. So Helena didn't even know her mom at all, doesn't have any memory of her. And my nanny experienced losing her mom, and I can see that really affected my nanny going forward in her life. Like that's it. I kind of feel like it's like me in a way with how I feel about David being gone, his picture being gone from every part of my life. Like I've always said, God forbid if Paul passed before the day I got married, I'd have David give me away, walk me down the aisle and stuff, and like all them having babies, having your own baby, starting your own family, all them things. I seen like David as like a father figure and a brother in one. Such a messed up relationship. You'd never be able to describe it with words. But now I'm like, that's David. Like he was everything in one. Every person that you needed. A bestie, a mate, someone you can chat shy to, a dad. He used to put me into order as well. My nanny also didn't discipline me because I wasn't her child. So she didn't feel, I never was grounded, wasn't I? No. I was never grounded. Not a day in my life.
One time,
my nanny nearly grounded me because I told her she farted once. That was about it. That was the only time she was about to ground me.
Remember Paddy's Day? Where
Paddy's Day I got brought back in a Garda car.
And then you were out 15 minutes later.
I was out 15 minutes later. Imagine getting brought back in a Garda car.
Remember I knocked the door and you're like, no, she's not coming out.
Paul was like, you aren't going to see her for a long, long time.
15 minutes later, down the road. Let's get her a drink now because the guards poured you out a drink.
Mad. But like David used to discipline me and be like, you're not doing anything around the house, help ma, da 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 da. Do this, get out and get some work, start. Like he's the reason I got my 2 dogs, because I was dog walking and I actually was walking a few dogs from the neighbourhood, but fell in love with them, and eventually the owner moved away and gave them to me to keep. But like again, Björn Mishka was from David. Like he was the one that forced me. He was like, you're either going to go clean cars, wash windows or walk dogs, pick your thing. He wasn't letting me not. And I think that's why I have so much discipline when it comes to work and drive, like when it comes to work now. But yeah, my nanny's been through a lot. She lost.
Oh, the male. Your nanny is honestly.
She's invincible. I don't know how she's still rocking. She doesn't even know how she's rocking herself.
She does it. She is some woman. Seriously.
Oh.
And she's such a Paris Hilton.
Yeah, she's a little diva, like.
Yeah.
And she's definitely where I get my mouth from as well. And even though she likes to be in denial, like she thinks that we don't curse, she doesn't curse at home. She'll be like, "What are you effing cursing for, Sophie?" Yeah, okay. But yeah, my nanny lost her mom. Met Dick. Lost Dick. She also lost one of her children when Anto and Stephen were born. So Anto and Stephen were actually twins. Is Anto the eldest or Nikki's the eldest? I'm sorry. I actually can never remember.
I think Anto's the eldest.
I think Anto is the eldest, yeah.
No, he is.
I always get mixed up between two of them because they're so close in age, and I don't really, like I said, like Nikki, I don't see Nikki as my mom at all in any way, shape or form, so I don't really pay attention to anything to do with her dates in her life or anything like that. But my nanny lost Dick. And then she also has lost friends, obviously her own friends that have passed over the years and everything. And then last year, my uncle Robert died in the summer. And then 6 months later then, we lost her other brother, Ronnie. So that's her 2 brothers lost 6 months apart. And then Ronnie dies in January. David, her son, commits suicide in April. So like, what do you even call that? Like,
that's just a different level of
loss.
Yeah.
And she was so close to her brothers. And it's like, it's like you need your bros there when you're grieving, when you lose your child, obviously. And they were there. They were the ones who picked her up when she lost her husband as well. So yeah, my family has just been going through the absolute hell and back. It's just a nightmare. And then we have my Nikki tormenting us as well through all of this because she's in a total different dimension with what she's on. So just taunts my nanny. She doesn't get a break. We don't get a break. Every day I'm going through something new. And that's what, as well, I feel like I really wanted to be really transparent on this podcast because I think a lot of people think because of the social media and the modelling and the veil of fashion and beauty and everything, people think like, oh, she has it all. Like, bro, I'm like, you have not met anybody that has experienced what I've experienced. Like, no, I'm just able to deal with life because I've no other choice than strength. Like, I just don't talk about it. Like the stick that I get online, people haven't a clue what someone goes through. So now I'm like, yeah, I'm going to speak my story. Yeah.
And I think through all of that, like you said, that you have Nikki knocking on your door. It's not
every day she knocks on her door. Every day she taunts us. Like,
and I don't know. I think with all this with your nanny, it's like how, I don't know how, not only her though, so I don't know how you do it. And the fact you still have that drive every day to get your posts up, to get your reels, like you're an inspiration to me as much as your nanny is as well. Like I don't think you
We
realize.
really
like,
are family, aren't we? We're not friends.
Yeah, no, family.
We're actually sisters.
Yeah.
Unbiological sisters.
But like you giving me so much praise at the beginning of this, but like you really have taught me so many things. And it's just unbelievable how.
Taught me so much as well. I wouldn't have been here without you. I wouldn't be here today.
I wouldn't, Sophie, I wouldn't have as well.
Like, genuine, like.
Yeah. I was nearly.
Especially when I was going through everything with Louise. You were one of the first people I called when I actually. Guys, we're going to touch on. How am I going with time?
About 10 minutes.
Okay.
Right.
Guys, I'm. Like, I have to save conversations for the rest of the season. But, like. Maria has seen everything vividly, like, with my family, haven't you? Like, there's...
From young.
I'm going to have to get you back for...
Yeah. I'll still
more,
say in the
especially
corner.
while we're delving personally into my family, because I feel like even Maria reminds me of things that I've forgotten about that have gone on.
Yeah. So, talking about...
Basically, I had a psychotic auntie called Louise. Yeah, she was David's twin, right? I know Maria wants me to get this out in this episode. She was batshit crazy. I was actually really close to her as well. Obviously, I was raised with her, so she was like one of my older sisters too. We were very close. And then we always knew she was like undiagnosed, bipolar, BPD, something, maybe schizophrenia. And it just went on and went on. I really want to focus on this on another episode where we're talking about trying to get family members diagnosed, and like, if you don't look after your mental health and take it serious, it really is going to impact those around you. And you can't help someone unless they want to help themselves. And it goes with drug abuse, it goes with mental illness, it goes with everything, because I feel like I can touch on so many subjects. Yeah, she was mad, and we basically had to get a bar order from her. This was before COVID, but yeah, she was very, 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 very toxic on a sick, dark level. And it just progressed and progressed with years. It was always like you'd walk on eggshells around her, and then you're her bestie, and then da-da-da, and you don't know when it's going to kick off. But then it got really, really dark, and we got a bar order from her, and yeah. Mm-hmm. You were petrified. You used to be scared if you didn't fold the towel properly when you were...
Yeah, folding the towel. I'd be scared that it'd be cooking at a different angle. I wouldn't even use it sometimes. I'd wash my hands and dry my hands on my stuff.
So yeah, that's what I was living with. Me and my nanny say we were a prisoner. My nanny literally always says we were a prisoner in our own home when she was living there until we got her out. She actually wouldn't leave. We actually had to get a bar order in order for the guards to be able to exit her out. So this was really bad emotional abuse, domestic abuse, really, really, really bad that we went through. So that was while everything's going on with Nikki and that. But keep in mind, as all this stuff is going on, David's on his like A1, like hippie buzz, like, yeah, he's getting all the positive vibes going. He was the one that pulled me out of so many dark spaces. He was honestly the glue in the family. And then it's like we got a bar order from Louise. Nikki had gone, sometimes she'd just go away to different counties and stuff and would just
go for a few months.
Yeah, she just would like leave and just disappear. And like, my nanny would always be happy when she knew she was alive or she'd hear from her on the phone. But everything was kind of happy families for her. From COVID to...
Yeah.
It was, like I was saying earlier, sorry, we never, guys, this is going to be me a lot. I keep jumping from topic to topic. But after David was thriving during COVID, we basically came out with COVID and he literally obviously became depressed because he was so used to how quiet it was.
COVID was his time to shine because, and I feel like for a lot of people as well.
Pollution, he was like obsessed with Mother Nature. Like he would cry over pollution. He would cry over global warming. He felt everything so deeply, didn't he? So remember like this, the air smelled cleaner when COVID was, like everything, that all was in his soul, like, wasn't it?
And he had a lot of time to be David. He had a lot of time.
He was just David.
Yeah, he had a lot of
just
time
a free
to
spirit,
go
like
his own different like talk about.
And everybody else was a free spirit. Sure, I was jogging, doing 5Ks and all. You wouldn't get me doing one now.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like everybody was a different version of themselves during COVID. Now, not like there was people that obviously had a really, really, really hard time and dark time during COVID. But I feel like for me and the people in my life, we definitely needed it. With David, he needed COVID, but he needed the world to stay in that zone. That's why I was like trying to beg him when I seen his mind decreasing to like move to the back arse of somewhere. This is not good for Dublin, and this society is not for his type of mind. He needs to, what's the word?
Open-minded and carefree.
There was a guy on Love is Blind that I really liked, and he had the long hair. Remember?
I didn't actually.
You watched the English Love is Blind?
I only watched like a couple episodes.
Did you?
Yeah. I'm very bad.
He was like that vibe, like Spirit Bird. I was like, what? There was a guy in Love is Blind that would move around. He could never stay in one place. He was real beachy, real hippie, He even had the same bracelets that David wore and everything. And I was like to David, why don't you just do that? But then again, he had his son, Preston, who was here, which was keeping him here. Mm-hmm. So it was like he
just went very dark very quick.
Just went very dark very quick. And what I was going to touch on there before Maria came on was he started microdosing ketamine himself. Mm-hmm. So as you have probably heard, this is a new thing that people are doing. But he obviously took it into his own hands because he was like, oh, I'm the king of drugs. And I trusted him because you would trust anything David said, because he was like, you'd never think that they'd take his mind. David controlled the drugs. Like but like, that's what I mean. You don't know when one day your mind's just going to snap from them. And I don't have a lot of time left, so I'm going to touch on that more on another topic. But we just seen his mind decrease over the years. And then basically what happened in a nutshell was he became addicted to the ketamine. He was in denial. And I was like, you're not microdosing anymore. No, I don't know what the story. You actually are slowly turning into your sister Nikki. And it's crazy how over time it was like we were losing David. And then last summer was when it fully...
Yeah, I think he went
into a psychosis then last summer.
Yeah. Because he was living these stories that he was experiencing when he was high. But he couldn't distinguish reality versus him being high.
No, he was believing his hallucinations.
All into one.
He was coming down to the gaff saying, they've taken parts of my body apart. Aliens took me. They zapped me in my bed. They chopped me up. I'm not me. And like, right, let me stick a knife in you then. Let's see if you can feel it. Like, obviously joking, but I was like, David, like, you're believing your hallucinations. This is not real. He was genuinely living. He was saying he was driving down the Malahide Road in his car and lasers were zapping him. Mm-hmm. And that the CIA were after him. Guys, it's actually so mad because me and him were I just felt like we were so educated on drugs and like we knew like that could never be us. And like he was all about using drugs wisely and stuff, but it's just like you're never smarter than drugs.
And I think you're never smarter than drugs. They're always in control.
He thought that's what he thought.
He had it on the wraps. He thought he could. And I think when you were saying that, like, it all progressively happens. Like, you just don't wake up one day and
you're an addict.
Yeah, it progressively happens over time. Gradually. And I think he really thought that he could handle it and he thought that he was in control and everything was okay. But realistically, I don't think he then started to realise the time that it was just the two.
I feel like Kat was his little buddy from back in the day that crept back in on him. Like, I remember when I was younger, David had a psychosis from Kat. This was like over 10 years ago. And I think that was before he went on his psychedelic buzz. I think that was the psychosis that made him be like, F them Class A drugs, let me go and do plant-based drugs. But then what he was doing was putting Class A drugs then and trying to use them as psychedelics with actual psychedelics then. Like, ketamine is not a psychedelic. I've been seeing this pushed on a lot of pages that he follows that have millions and millions of followers trying to promote ketamine as a psychedelic. And I am just like, what on earth? Like, it's torn so many families apart. Like, absolutely mental. And I just wish I knew more about the dangers of trying to take, like, microdosing into your own hands. Before, I wish I looked at these pages and was like questioning it when David had told me. Do you know? Before they took his mind.
But I don't know though, Sophie, like, as much as you could have been educated about it back then and trying to say this to him, I don't think he would have listened. Like, the amount of times that you would have had conversations with him trying to even tell him that this was all from him microdosing, him just slowly kind of just not realizing that he was taking it every day.
It's so frightening. I didn't even see where his mind went.
Sorry, guys. I think the memory card is fooling us.
Stop.
Yeah. This is recording now, so just give me a second.
Okay. So will we still keep going?
Just pause for a second.
Okay.
I don't think you're going to get to the dilemmas, are you?
No. I have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Do you want to come back?
What?
For my next episode?
Yeah, I actually will, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Slay. Thanks. I knew this was going to happen. I think it's too late for us to go Bambino.
What time is it now? Oh, God, yeah.
By the time we get into town, like...
Yeah, defo.
Will we go on, like, the weekend or something?
Yeah, I have my laser booked on Saturday. I have an assignment I need to do as well.
On Saturday as well?
So I might just take Saturday to get my laser and do my assignment. I'm going to have to see what I'm like if I finish it by Sunday. It's due on Sunday night. I haven't even started it yet.
Oh, Sunday night, no way.
So I'm going to see how I got done. I might
Who's this? I thought you were well ahead.
Friday. Sophie, I'm literally
right.
so behind.
Okay, so how many minutes would you say?
Literally about 2-3 minutes.
Okay, right. Fuck. Are we going?
Yeah, come on.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. But like you can finish up on like what you're saying and then wrap up from there.
And then wrap up.
There's no big rush.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What were we saying there?
What was the last thing there?
What would I say? Just a bit of technical difficulty.
What?
Bit of technical difficulty, guys.
And no, just carry on. It's fine. We'll just edit.
Okay. What were we saying?
David, I think even if you had the education back then on microdosing and all these pages you're seeing now, he probably still would have listened to you because he thought he was in control and he thought
you couldn't tell David like that he was wrong in that, and couldn't, like there was no but that's what I feel like. Ketamine is huge in society. Like half of you listening to this are probably on it right now. Like everybody loves it here. It's like Jesus Christ, like what's the story with everyone with the cat and the pink stuff? Everybody's flat to the mat on it now. Guys, I am going to be so transparent on here. I think I've already said, but like me and the girls did love the rip when we were younger. I took drugs. I've taken drugs. I've taken ketamine myself. On nights out. And I just couldn't imagine taking that drug sober. So obviously David took it to a whole other level. But David started taking it. David told me he brought it back to Dublin from Ibiza with the lads when he was younger, when he was a young fella. And I feel like their generation is kind of what got it in the swing of coming into the nightlife. And I feel like that was his demon. I feel like the cat was his demon when he was younger, that crept up on him. It's like he gave up like the class A drugs. That's what you'd consider cat like is class A? Or is like heroin and stuff class A, and then I don't know, to be honest. But it's a hardcore bleeding drug, guys. And like I know it's everybody around the world, but I feel like Irish people love the rip more than anyone. They live for it.
Yeah.
We live for it. I've been there, done that. That's why I'm like, bro, like we got it out of our system in our teenage years that we don't even like have a desire to do it now. It's just like not worth the come down. And that's why you're going to be chasing the high all the time, because when you're on a come down, every single endorphin in your body has dropped down to its lowest point. And it was David, all this information I know is from him, dropped down to its lowest point. And then the reason you're going to become addicted is because you're chasing that high again. You're chasing to get your oxytocin and your dopamine and everything back up. But I definitely feel like, I don't know how it creeped back into him during COVID or after COVID. I know at my 21st, he was on it and he left and he came back with a battered sausage. He said he was going home. He said bye to everyone and he came back with a battered sausage, which was mad, wasn't it?
And everyone was just like, where did he go?
Yeah, I feel like that's where it started, but he was keeping it under the cover.
Yeah.
But
I think if anyone was to take anything from this whole conversation, it's be careful, because you don't think it's you. And I think a lot of people now as well, it depends as well.
So normalised.
a whole friend group can all be taking it on the weekend and going out, but all of them could also be
Everybody
like,
in that friend group has a different chemical wiring.
Yeah.
You could be, someone could do drugs a million times and they'll be fresh out. Someone could do a drug once and it's going to put them in a psychosis.
Mm-hmm. But there's people that could be friends for years, and that's because that's what their friend group does every single weekend. And they might even
that was David's friend group for so many years.
They might have the thought to say, look, I need to stop, but then it's like, how are you going to stop seeing your friends? But you've really got to make the decision to be aware and make people around you aware as well, how dangerous it can be and how it can really stumble on very quickly onto a full-blown addiction.
Yeah, you could be like David and think you have it all summed up and they can never get a hold of you. They sure got a grip of him. Guys, he was the almighty when it came to this stuff. Like, honestly, like he was the be all and end all. I thought, anyway, I can't even believe that. Like, I'm sitting here today talking about that. Like, what? Never thought that this would be the case. But here, I have to wrap this up, guys, because I had so much more planned for this episode to say, and I genuinely just got on a roll with what I was saying and didn't get the rest of my stuff covered. So also, that just means that Maria has to come back for the next episode. And yeah, I have juicy things now for the next episode that I think you will absolutely love. And we're going to touch on my identity crisis more, because I didn't tell you about really who I am and who I found out that I was. That I know a lot of people who follow me are love to nitpick at who I am and what race I am and da-da-da-da-da. People on TikTok over the years have been telling me that I'm Spanish and I'm this and I'm that and da-da-da-da. Now I know who I am. So I'm going to say with my chest, hopefully it doesn't change again. But right, I love yous and leave yous. Make sure to subscribe on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube. And I look forward to joining you on the next episode. Thanks for listening and watching, guys.